Welcome to the Pro Aging Podcast. I'm Steve Gurney, founder of the Positive Aging Community. We're excited that you can join us for our interactive discussions with pioneers and thought leaders on a wide variety of topics related to aging and longevity. Today we have a conversation that we put together at the very last minute with news that Hollywood superstar Bruce Willis has aphasia. Our panel members include Susan Wranik, who's a speech therapist, Suzanne Coyle, who's a speech therapist and executive director of the Stroke Comeback Center, Marcia Moran, who's an individual living with aphasia, and Susan Emery, another individual living with aphasia. So let's jump into what was a very informative and thought-provoking discussion with lots of great audience questions. And I am really pleased that we were able to put together a discussion on aphasia in such short notice with the news out there that Hollywood actor Bruce Willis has aphasia and how the media has picked up on that. This is a great opportunity for us to understand what aphasia is and be able to navigate what is being communicated out there about aphasia in the media. But more importantly, this is an opportunity for us to all come together around aphasia and learn about resources and try to help each other out. So with that, I am really pleased to bring Susan Wranik and Susan Coyle to the stage, and let's get to know them a little bit better, and then we are going to dive in to this discussion on aphasia. And before I get to know the two of you, I want to remind everybody that today is April Fool's Day. Okay, but this discussion is no joke. But one of our audience members, Craig Clark, he sent me a bunch of really cool riddles, and I'll just pick one. What is the stepladder's favorite day? Either of you? April Fool's Day. Okay. Anyways, okay. Thanks a lot for that, Craig. All right. Well, I've known you for years, and quite honestly, if I didn't know you, I can guarantee that my first awareness of aphasia would have been reading one of the news articles about Bruce Willis. But thanks to our friendship, you have put the word aphasia in the back of my mind for the last 10 to 15 years, I would say. But I know a lot of people in the audience know who you are. But Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what led to your what you're doing now.
I'm a Wisconsin native, and I worked for the first 30 years of my life as a translator-interpreter for the Italian government. That's another term the media doesn't get right. Translators write, interpreters speak. I worked with 128 countries in almost as many languages. And then I took that communication skill to the next level and became a speech language pathologist. Not overnight. Lots of years of study involved. And I finally opened my own practice, specializing in the treatment of neurogenic communication and swallowing disorders in the adult and older adult community. I combine the cultural, the linguistic, and the medical aspects to empower other people.
I love it. And Suzanne, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Sure. Yeah. I'm Suzanne Coyle, and I'm the executive director of Stroke Comeback Center. I'm a speech language pathologist also by training. And before taking this role as executive director of our organization, I spent about 20 years working in outpatient rehab and here at Stroke Comeback Center, helping people with aphasia. For those of you that don't know about Stroke Comeback Center, we provide long-term support for stroke survivors and their families, most of whom have aphasia. So this was a big week for us. To have aphasia in the news was pretty exciting.
And I tend to agree that while some of the information that's out there on aphasia, which we're going to learn about, the right and wrong and what have you, in general, doesn't matter what the medical condition is, if you don't have it, if your loved ones don't have it, then they don't exist for in most people's minds. But when you hear that a celebrity has something, or somebody that you, a figurehead that you admired, all of a sudden it has more meaning. It's sort of like, wait, you're kidding me? Bruce Willis with Die Hard, he has this condition called aphasia. All of a sudden it has relevance. So there's probably a lot of good things in the aphasia community about somebody with the celebrity status of Bruce Willis being affected by this. Okay, so I know that you all have a ton of content. I can't believe how many questions have already come in, but let's get to the basics first. Okay, can either or both of you tell us, what is aphasia? Like, what exactly is this? Is it a disease, a disorder? How do you communicate what it is to people?
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what aphasia is, what it isn't, and then types in treatment. I'm going to turn it over to Suzanne, who will speak to that. I understand from the chat that people are having difficulty hearing me. I hope they can hear me now. Are things better? Please let me know. And I'm especially excited because we have two dear friends in the audience who are successfully living with aphasia. So they've agreed to come online, Marcia Moran and my dear friend, Susan Emery. But before we begin, let's talk about what aphasia is, okay? Aphasia is defined as a loss of language, not intellect. That's an important distinction. Aphasia is a disorder. It's not a disease. There are three primary causes for aphasia as we know it. One is stroke, traumatic brain injury, and sometimes drug toxicity. Now, if aphasia occurs because of one of these three, it is not progressive. It does not worsen. And with therapy, there is improvement. The question is always whether people will be back to normal, whether they can go back to work. We don't always have an immediate answer for that, but we can tell you that therapy helps. We know that it affects all four domains. They've been mixing up all the terminology here, but let me say that it affects a person's ability to speak, a person's ability to understand language, a person's ability to read and write. Those are the four domains. And sometimes they fall into the two categories we refer to as expressive and receptive aphasia. Expressive being your ability to speak, your ability to write, and receptive being the passive, your ability to understand what's said to you and your ability to read as well. There are people who can speak, but they're not aware of their errors as much, and there are people who can't, who cannot speak, but they're very much aware of what's being said to them. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to defer to Suzanne when we get to that point. Another thing to remember about aphasia is that it's an equal opportunity employer. Babies can have strokes, infants can have strokes, children, anybody of any age can have a stroke, and they can also experience aphasia. It becomes particularly problematic when a child who hasn't even completed language development experiences a stroke and the ensuing aphasia. Susan Emery will be happy to talk to you about that. Susan stroked when she was 9 years old. Susan's a productive member of society, which is why we're so concerned about this generalization that there's a progressive cognitive decline, equating the presence of aphasia with a progressive cognitive decline. That is not necessarily true. There can be improvement with aphasia. People can go on to live extraordinarily productive lives. Look at Gabby Gifford, okay? So the world doesn't have to come to an end. Aphasia is not a death sentence. It's an inconvenience, a terrible inconvenience, but we've learned to work with it and to help people work on quality of life. These are the two words. We have to be careful about the words we use because we can condition responses, and this stigmatizes all the people out there who are living successfully with aphasia, and there are many of them, or Suzanne wouldn't be in business, and neither would the Stroke Comeback Center. Now, with reference to our dear friend, Mr. Willis, what he has is aphasia owing to a disease. It's not the aphasia that is declining in and of itself, that's worsening in and of itself. It is the underlying disease of which the aphasia is a symptom. And it's because of the progression of that neurodegenerative disease that he's having cognitive decline and experiencing an increased loss of language. Is everybody thoroughly confused now? Does this make sense? Does this make sense at all? Somebody tell me.
It makes sense in my layperson brain, so it should make sense to other folks too.
I would hope so. And my comment is that never before in the history of medicine has the need for collaborative care been more important. We need to work together. And just because people can doesn't mean they should. We have all these physicians making comments, and they diagnose, and they do medication management, and they monitor every 4 months they see you. But those of us in the speech field who are in the trenches and are helping people, we're trying to give voice to these people's voices. We go knee to knee for hours at a time. We get it. We understand what they're going through. And it's always about quality of life. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now, and I'm going to defer to Suzanne, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the types and how we can help people.
Okay, great. Thanks, Susan. And thank you so much for that differentiation. It's been interesting this week. I feel like as a speech language pathologist and someone that works with stroke survivors with aphasia, it was really rewarding when my friends and family said, how does Bruce Willis have aphasia? Because they never said anything about him having a stroke. So I thought, oh, people have been listening to me. And his type of aphasia is different than the aphasia that we see as a result of stroke or brain injury. And, we have been advocating for years as a profession that aphasia does not impact somebody's intellect. So to have all this information come out about cognitive decline and aphasia was really confusing. So thank you, Steve, for this opportunity to clarify. And if you all walk away with nothing other than a basic understanding that there's aphasia that's a result of a stroke or a brain injury that improves with time and good hard work. And then there's also the progressive aphasia that is the result of a degenerative disease. And if you understand those are two different kinds, then Susan and I have done our work here today. In thinking about aphasia, as Susan mentioned, it can impact those 4 different modalities of language: the talking, the listening, the reading, and the writing. And of course, then treatment for aphasia would address those 4 different areas in different combinations depending on the type of aphasia. There's also been a lot of conversation this week. Susan and I were laughing earlier about the ways the media has mischaracterized aphasia. But most of the time with the aphasia we see, it kind of falls into 2 different categories, which you all might hear. There's the non-fluent aphasia, where somebody is struggling very hard to get their words, and they may have single words or short sentences or phrases. And then there's a fluent aphasia, where someone may talk very fast and have a lot of words come out, but those words don't make any sense. And so if you've seen one type of aphasia, you certainly haven't seen them all. You've seen one type, you've seen one type. So I think the best way to really understand what aphasia is to see it in action. And so, Steve, if you'd like to share that video that I sent this morning, I think it'll be helpful for everyone to see what aphasia looks like.
Mike, describe aphasia.
Okay, jumbled. sentences and words. It's hard. Numbers too. But I can like numbers. I can see it, but I can't speak it. Yeah.
What helps you think of words?
Oh, is it okay? As I have a phone, or is it this one? It's I think this one.
Opposite.
Yeah, opposite, or pointing, or not that hands, but I can this one or that.
What do you want people to know about aphasia?
Well, yes, it's it's like intelligent, but I can't say it. So, but like 2 years ago, I can't talk, and now it's it's helping, but it's hard though. But you gotta. Me, it's like I gotta do it. so.
I'm gonna show you a picture. Tell us what you see.
Okay. Eating. This is eating soup. No, it's no pasta. Eating soup, and it's catty. It's catty, and it's eating, and it's I don't know, like messy.
So that's an example of what aphasia looks like in that particular stroke survivor. So that's Mike. He had his stroke 2 years ago. He had almost no words after his stroke, and he has worked so hard to get to the point that he could communicate the way he did in that video. The other thing that video doesn't capture is his difficulties with his auditory comprehension, or understanding what he hears, which is a piece of aphasia as well. I was there when the video was being recorded, so I saw that sometimes the questions had to be asked more than once. He was given the questions in writing ahead of time. He was using every strategy he could come up with to be able to get those words out. Using his phone, he writes to help trigger the words sometimes, and he's using all those language modalities to be able to communicate in that video.
Great. Wow. Well, this is thanks to both of you and that great video. This is a great overview, and I hope everybody like myself has a better understanding of the of aphasia. And would you all like to address some of the questions that are coming in? And then Susan, I think it would be great to also bring to the stage the two people that you referenced that have a
third. Stephanie is here. I don't know if her husband Paul is here. Paul had a stroke. Paul also wrote a book.
Okay.
So I don't know, but if we can bring Susan Emery on.
Okay.
Susan Emery, I'm gonna. Normally we would guarantee a person's privacy, but I celebrate this woman on a daily basis.
Okay.
Susan Emery is one, and Marcia Moran. Susan stroked when she was 9 years old. All right. She didn't even have her language completely solidified at that point. She went on to marry. She's a grandmother. She's a great grandmother. She's a founder of a 501c3. She runs business like nobody I know. She's an amazing woman, and she can talk to you about stroke. And this is exactly why we have to be so careful about calling it a disorder, not a disease. We don't want to stigmatize this woman. She's done great things. And we have Marcia Moran as well. Marcia had a stroke as well. Marcia is the personification of doing everything that people told her she couldn't do. And she's gone on, she's speaking, she's on the platform now. So with that, I invite anybody to ask them questions, and thank you for coming.
Well, I'll jump in, and I'm glad that we've got this great panel here, because we've got a few questions that are coming through the audience, and then and I know everybody would like to hear Susan and Marcia's stories. But a couple of things to clarify first is, Susan, you brought up drug toxicity as a cause of aphasia. Can Barbara and a couple of others have asked if you could elaborate on that?
Not authoritatively. I know it's a cause. I know sometimes it can be reversible. Suzanne, do you know? I'm sure you know more about that than I.
No, I do know that it can be a side effect or an outcome sometimes. It's a very, very rare occurrence. I mean, there are 2 million Americans in the United States that have aphasia. The vast, vast majority of them, it's the result of stroke or a brain injury.
Okay.
Aphasia as we know it, but I would like to add to that there are many, many, many more. And this is an important thing for everybody to know with regard to the disease and the disorder dichotomy, okay? There are over 400 varieties of dementia. Everybody who has a dementia will at some point experience difficulty with memory, difficulty with language, aphasia, difficulty with voluntary movement, and difficulty with recognition of sequence, people, places, events, okay? They will all experience this, not necessarily to the same degree, not necessarily at the same time. But I know that people have been calling aphasia the new dementia, and I implore you from the bottom of my heart, please don't interchange those terms. Aphasia is one. Susan and Marcia don't want you to be calling it the new dementia. These ladies don't have dementia, but they've lived with aphasia. Okay, there's a difference. Again, it's the underlying disease. And somebody else in the question asked about, do we know the disease? And I presume that you're talking about Bruce Willis. The answer to the question is no, we don't know it. We don't know if they don't know it. They've chosen not to share. But I would just like to say that no matter how important somebody is, in the interest of confidentiality and HIPAA, this gentleman is entitled to as much privacy as the rest of us. But God bless him for going after quality of life. With that, I defer to Susan and Marcia.
Great. Yeah. So let's, great. I wanted to clarify that because those questions came in, and we can dive into the dementia related questions here in a moment. But first, let's meet our two new panel members. So Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you, and your aphasia journey.
Sure. I had my stroke when I was 9, and now I'm 66. So there's quite a few years in there. I think that it's definitely important to practice speaking, and to me that's more important than having the SLP, the speech language pathologist there. You at times have to have the speech language pathologist there, but practicing is the most important thing that you can do. Get in a situation where you have to talk. And this is difficult now that we're in the COVID time zone or whatever you call this. It's difficult to find people to talk to when you're often staying home. And so, what was done as far as I was concerned was I went back to school almost immediately after the stroke, about 2 weeks after the stroke. And I had to learn how to write with my left hand, and I had to learn how to speak to others and tell them what I needed or what I wanted. And it was a very interesting situation that I was placed in where I had to talk. There's nothing else that you can do other than just try to express yourself. And so the practice that was there, even though the practice wasn't my own making, the practice was because I had to do it. And so, so do you want me to say anything else, Susan Wranik, or not?
Whatever you'd like to talk about. What do you experience? What's the difficulty that you still experience?
I have difficulty coming up with words. I was speaking with 3 others a couple of days ago who were all doctors and nurses, and I forgot the word COVID. My head was going too fast trying to figure out what I was going to say next, and I couldn't come up with that word, even though I've heard it often during these past 2 years. It just was not there. And one of the people that was speaking with me actually came up with that word for me. So that's one of the problems. Another problem is that my head goes too fast and I get lost. I can't say anything because my head's going so fast and I can't get things out necessarily. I don't know if you understand that or not, but it's a problem because you have to either remove yourself from the situation or tell the person, make this situation a little bit stress-free or something like that.
Time for a station break.
Yes, time for a station break. And I would also say, in the same vein, I would say to caregivers that they can't coddle their stroke survivors. It's very, very important that you be able to speak and speak often and keep on practicing to be able to continue to speak. And right now, I can't get over the difficulty with COVID. So.
And then we're aging too. That's another factor. We can't diminish that. We all have word finding a difficulty. Would you just briefly talk about your business, what you're doing? Because I think you started a 501c3. How many people are you working with? You're working in multiple languages. Just a capsule of what you're doing.
Okay. To begin with, I was in Montgomery County Stroke Association for 8 years, the last 2 years of which I was president of the organization. And then following that, I opened a business called Circle of Rights, which promotes health and prevents stroke. I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I have most of my people in Montgomery County and the surrounding areas. So I've had this organization for 15 years. For the first 12 years or so, we went out and made presentations to those who did not have a stroke and who it was, we told them about ways to better their health, their high blood pressure, their cholesterol, their diabetes, their eating, and their exercise, and to be able to not have a stroke or at least postpone the stroke for years. And then for the past 2 years, we've done most of the stuff over the internet. So we're posting English once a week. A public health person, a person who's going for a doctorate in public health, is doing this for me. She's posting the stuff in English, and then others who are bilingual are actually translating that and posting it to their own to a special Facebook page for people who understand that particular language. A third of the people here are bilingual and speak a language other than English at home in this county. So it's important to get this out to not only English speaking people, but also others.
Susan, and I'll ask this question to Marcia as well, because I want to learn more about Marcia. But Adele Logan Galan said, can people with aphasia type what they're thinking and have it come out understandable? So are you able to type fluently, or is it speaking and typing the same?
I am. Let me talk first, and then you can talk, Marcia. I think what I learned, in high school, I took a typing class, and I think that was really strange. But I actually learned how to use my left hand on more keys than my right hand uses. So yes, I can type, and I can type words that people understand. Yes, Marcia.
Great. Yeah, and Marcia, I'm curious at your response to this, because I saw you shaking your head, but also tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Okay, so I had my stroke when I was 53, and I didn't know it was a stroke. The first thing that I did was crawl out of the bed, and I was crawling down the hall, and I ran out of gas. I think I would have been dead if it went Sunday and my husband was home. He came up later, he saw me, asked if I could talk to him. That's when I learned that I couldn't talk at all. I think aphasia was the most difficult thing about my stroke. So over time, I learned to talk again a little bit, but I could talk at the conversation level. I could not talk at a much deeper level, like when you're at work. Couldn't happen. If I was on the phone, I couldn't talk because I was scared and I didn't know the other person. If it was someone I knew, I might be able to talk. But if I was tired, I couldn't talk again. So I spent several years trying to figure out what would make me talk. And it took many things, including laser therapy, neurofeedback, a whole lot of things. And I got to the point where I can talk fluently now. Every now and then I can't think of a word, but I'm happy. Right.
And you're doing public speaking now, are you not, Marcia?
I am doing public speaking.
And you're not only doing public speaking, but you're winning contests, aren't you, Marcia?
Yeah. So what I suggest everyone with aphasia do is try whatever it is that you can find that you think will make you better, as long as it won't impact you negatively, right? So do your research. But if you think something's going to help you, please try it.
Socialization? Socialization? I know Marcia belongs to a very interesting group called, it's a Toastmasters group that was started by a friend of mine who has his own diagnoses right now. And in light of he's got Parkinson's, and in light of his movement disorder, he started a Toastmaster chapter for people who have movement disorders and difficulty expressing themselves. Yeah. And I know Marcia's involved in that. I've been involved with that. It's a wonderful opportunity for people to socialize, to get out of their comfort zone, and to push themselves to the next level. Am I right, Marcia?
Yeah. So I actually started coaching because I think that other people need to see what's possible.
I'd just like to add that, first of all, thank you, both Marcia and Susan, for sharing your stories. And you two are perfect examples of why the aphasia world kind of went bonkers this week with this talk of an aphasia diagnosis, meaning that you needed to step back from life and disengage from your profession, like Bruce Willis's family said he was going to do. When you two are such great examples of how to live well with aphasia, and how important it is to actually engage in life with aphasia. And I I appreciate both of you mentioning how important it is to be with other people, to socialize, to use your language, and to really push yourself, because that's what helps improve aphasia. And whether that's with a speech language pathologist or with a Toastmasters club or a local stroke group, or of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say our programs here at Stroke Comeback Center, all of it is with this same goal of use your language. It's not use it or lose it. It's use it and improve it, so that you can continue to live that active, healthy, productive life. An important message in all this.
We also have Janet Gritz online. Janet Gritz is a speech language pathologist who heads the Montgomery County Stroke Association. She does enormous work, enormous groups, and feeds people in. We share. I do Express Yourself twice a month, which is how I met Susan. Emery, a lot of Susans. It's not a requirement for this program. But Express Yourself is another opportunity twice a month on the second and the fourth Tuesday. It's free. Come and join us. It's people with different types of aphasia, not just straight aphasia. There are people online who have primary progressive aphasia. I know we've had a question on that, and we've been careful to put that towards the tail end because we don't want to add too much confusion. We wanted to focus on aphasia as we know it, with the etiology, the underlying cause of stroke, traumatic brain injury, or toxicity. We wanted to focus on that.
All right. Well, we got tons of questions, so I want to make sure that we get through these. But before, Marcia, you were going to comment on how typing works for you. Is this a form of communication that you can use?
Yeah. So when I started typing after my stroke, I could type 2 paragraphs, and it took me all day. And I had to delete most of what I did with my right hand and try again and try again. It took a long time looking through thesaurus.com, thinking about how words were spelled before I could actually type a sentence.
Wow.
Now, I did write a book, but it took a long time to get through that process.
Did either of you experience apraxia? Okay.
Well, let's explain what apraxia
touch
is.
On this. It's important. It's a twofer. Again, it's a disorder. What happens very often when people have stroke, they also have difficulty organizing voluntary movement. Apraxia can affect various parts of your body. PTs and OTs very often will ask somebody to button or unbutton their shirt. And people will fumble. They don't have the manual dexterity and the coordinative power to be able to button, unbutton. That's an example of physical apraxia. It happens with speech too. Not only do you have the aphasia where you can see the word, as the gentleman on the tape said, you know what you want to say, you can't get it out, but then trying to get your mouth to go in the right direction, to articulate it. Even saying the vowels, A, E, I, O, U, can be so difficult for people because they can't make those quick changes, which are critical to clear speech. So again, it's a disorder, and they often run in tandem. And
how did apraxia affect either or both of you?
Well, sometimes I tried to say something and I just couldn't get it. So there's thinking about getting it out of my mouth. That's aphasia. But I couldn't say it well. I couldn't say, like, the ending of my words, I couldn't say them.
It could have also been the typing, Marcia, too. You know, the inability to hit the right letters, because that's a coordinative skill.
Yeah. I didn't think of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a question came in: what doctor or specialist or healthcare professional will give a diagnosis of aphasia? And there's so many questions out there of the intersection of dementia and aphasia. Can there sometimes be misdiagnosis? And so who do you go to if you suspect this issue?
I would say there's definitely a lot of misdiagnosis out there. If somebody who has a stroke or a TBI or a brain injury of some kind, and you notice a sudden change in language, usually the neurologist, the physician, is addressing the medical issue of the stroke or the brain injury. Part of that process is referrals to speech language pathologist, physical therapist, occupational therapist. And it's usually the speech language pathologist that would diagnose the aphasia in that situation, and can also then drill down to what type of aphasia it is. So that is usually done by the speech language pathologist. In a case where somebody has a gradual decline in language, and it's more of the progressive aphasia, that often comes from a physician or particularly a neurologist. There's some indication that if somebody has a decline in language skills over the course of 2 years, that's an indicator used in diagnosing the primary progressive aphasia, or often called PPA. And so that diagnosis may come from a neurologist. I would still advocate that that person should see a speech language pathologist. There is work that we can do with a degenerative condition. We can teach strategies to facilitate communication, to make communication easier. We absolutely need to work with the families and train them on ways to make communication easier. And then also there is always the hope too, that if we give some good exercises and we stimulate that language center in the brain, that we can slow the progression of the language decline. You know, that's, I think, a little harder to justify in the research. But personally, if it were me, I would do everything I could to make that language center of my brain light up as much as possible. So great. I hope that answers that question.
That's great.
And there's also research out there. There are a lot of research programs for PPA. I know Georgetown and Dr. Peter Turkeltaub, a researcher, they're doing a lot of things. So you might qualify for one of those programs, which of course would be at no cost to you. If
great.
That's what you suspect.
And I'm going to make sure to drop both Susan and Suzanne's contact information into chat. But a great question came in from Kimberly Pica for Susan and Marcia. And that is there a respectful way or a way you prefer to have others offer you a word that you are having difficulty finding? And I was thinking the same thing when we watched the video. What are some tips for folks in interacting with somebody who may have aphasia?
You want me to answer first, Marcia? To me, it seems that it doesn't help me in general unless I ask for it. When people start putting words out there that I might use, it just confuses the issue. It confuses me. It confuses everything. Mm-hmm. And so I would like to be able to think about the word for 3 seconds or 4 seconds. And then if I can't come up with it, I can come up with something that means the same thing. Or it's possible that I will ask. My husband can, people who are close to me can help me a little bit more, because I know that there's not, I don't know, because it's more intimate, I guess, but I don't think that many people really should help others necessarily.
Marcia?
I agree with what Susan said. So the speech pathologist was very clear to my husband that he couldn't intervene. Now, he did sometimes, but I learned to say the words because he left me the space.
I think, as I said before, if you've met one person with aphasia, you've met one person with aphasia. So each person is different, and there is no harm in asking that person when you see them struggling for a word. Ask them, do you want me to help you? And let them answer. Sometimes people will be like, yes, what is it? It's spaghetti. And other times they don't want help. But there is not a universal answer to that question, except to just ask the person with aphasia what works for them.
There's been so many questions that I haven't been monitoring chat, but Elva Roy said that Cedar mentioned something in chat about singing thoughts. Can anybody comment on that? Has there been success in sort of singing?
Sure. So music is in a different part of the brain than language. And so there is an idea that you can use music as a door. So if the language center of the brain has been impacted by the stroke or the brain injury, we can use the music part of the brain as a doorway to get to language. And so oftentimes in the early days after a stroke, people may be able to sing, happy birthday, row, row, row your boat, those songs that are just so ingrained in your brain, and they may be able to get words out through music. There's a therapy approach that then uses music to translate into meaningful phrases. So you practice singing the meaningful phrases, and then that can be translated into saying the phrases. But there's also so much evidence that's coming out now about how the power of music. And I saw that in the chat about Gabby Giffords, and music has been instrumental in her recovery, about using music as a modality for communication and as a part of this holistic stroke recovery program. And so there are some great music therapy programs in the area. A lot of hospitals are offering it now. We offer a music therapy class. Before the pandemic, there was a great stroke choir out at Inova Loudon, and I'd love to see that come back. So if stroke survivors out there haven't tried to access music as a way to improve their language, I'd recommend they give it a try.
Now, let's talk about technology. Somebody asked, they referenced Stephen Hawking, who learned to type and communicate with his eyes. And we learned that he had ALS, Lou Gehrig's condition. Is the aphasia community utilizing technology to better communicate? And is that same technology available?
Yeah. Absolutely, they are. There's so much that can be done with technology to help support people with aphasia. And it can be as simple as apps on the phone that you have on your phone. Mike was using an app in that video where if he knew the first couple letters of a word, the text prediction would pop up with a word and it could help him get the word. So there's technology like that. There's technology where people have a tablet or on their phone and have icons that they can point to or press the different icons on their screen and it will speak for them. And there's such a wide range of technology that can help people with aphasia, that it's all the way from very simple, let me get it started and then I can finish it myself, to I'm going to communicate solely by use of this tablet or device. I will say with that somebody that has a very severe aphasia, it may be helpful to have one of those tablets or devices, but it isn't going to be a Stephen Hawking's-like experience where they can use that to express very complex thoughts.
And then there's the issue of apraxia too.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
You don't want to just rush out and buy it because you can. You need to speak with the clinician so that you get the right thing. Clinician, we mean speech, so that you get the right, the thing that's most appropriate.
It is definitely not one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a question or comment for everybody, but Susan specifically, Suzanne Emery, can you talk about having stroke at such a young age? We have heard really nothing about children who have strokes. I think strokes are in this category of what we term older adult conditions.
Right. So we're getting younger. The strokes are getting going to younger people right now. Children can actually have strokes in utero. So at 9 years old, as I went back to school, I had lost all my friends because they didn't understand what was happening, and I had to make new friends. So that's one thing. What was the question again?
Oh, just about about people. You answered it there, that this is that we are having strokes when we're younger.
Younger ages, right? And you know there were certain subjects that I was not good at in high school. English was one of them. I never did understand that. I don't understand whether that has to do with aphasia or not.
Thank you.
Apropos of technology, I just wanted Janet Gritz shared with us, and we should have mentioned if you have any questions with regard to technology and speech, Joan Green is the guru. She is our go-to person. And the thing is, we're all speech pathologists, but we each have our niche, and each one does something differently, and we all work together, and that's what it's all about, collaborative care.
Great. Now, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to bring up, just to clarify again, the connection between dementia and aphasia. If any or all of you could comment on that a little bit, because I know that's something that our audience is very interested in.
Aphasia is a disorder. And if it's caused by the normal causes, stroke, TBI, toxicity, it will get better with treatment, and it's not going to progressively advance, and you're not going to have a cognitive component. What you see is what you get, and you will get better with treatment. If the underlying cause is a disease, and we'll call a spade, PPA is a frontal lobe dementia, okay? And that's what's causing a lot of this confusion. If you have a dementia of any variety, you will have difficulty at some point with language. That's the difference, and that is progressive degenerative. All right, in one, you're working to get better. With the pure aphasia as we know it as a disorder, you're working to get better. With the other one, you're working with a disease like Willis and like the primary progressive aphasias that we've discussed and the variants. You're working to hold on and to slow the progression. That's the difference. How'd I do?
I thought that was great. If anybody would like to add anything to that, jump in. Let's see. Okay. Is it okay? If not too difficult, postpone. I think somebody brought up postponing a stroke. How do you postpone a stroke? Or what are some of the healthy living? What are some of the steps?
So if you have high blood pressure, you need to control it. If you don't have high blood pressure, please try not to get it. If you have diabetes, control it. Again, control it in the best way that you possibly can. I know my husband has diabetes. This is a daily issue, with him, but he has to control it as best as he can. Cholesterol, you need to make sure that you don't have all that much. If you do, try to eat better. Exercise is very important for us stroke survivors. At least what I've heard from literature is at least 50% of stroke survivors are depressed. Exercise is something that helps that. And so exercise is definitely important for stroke survivors, but it's important for those who have not had a stroke. It's also important, your eating habits. I forget the phrase, but anyway, your eating habits have a lot to do with what happens in your body. I mean, you eat something and, does it have sugar in it? Well, then it gives you a high. Does it have, is it long lasting or short lasting? You should be on the outside aisles of the supermarket. You should not go to the inside as much as you can. Sure, I go there to get crackers a couple of times and etc. But in general, the fruit and the vegetables and the milk products and the meat are pretty much where you should be. You should be going there, and you should be actually, when you eat out, you should also try to eat those things and nothing that has a lot of sugar in it. They're the basic reasons. I mean, the basic issues.
We have a representative, I think, from the ASHA Association, former SLP instructor, and she made the comment that anybody who has a brain can have a stroke.
Yeah.
And you are what you eat. And as the book says, the body keeps score.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to give each of you the opportunity to sort of share any thoughts that you might have that you were unable to express. But before we do that, I just want to, Miriam Zucker, and this came up several times. So there are exclusively 3 causes for aphasia: stroke, brain injury, and very low on the end of the totem pole is drug toxicity. Is that a correct statement?
I would not use exclusively.
Yeah.
I would say primarily.
Primarily. Okay. Great. So hopefully that clarifies things for folks in the audience there. But the last question I have on my list is from Barbara. And I guess something was said about laser therapy or neurofeedback. Does that,
Marcia had that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So if people want to know more about that, they can contact me, and I'll put my email in again.
Steve put it in for you.
I'll put it in again.
My email and phone number should go as well if they need to contact me.
Great. I've got them. I just dropped them in there again. Okay. We did it. So I want to go around the little Brady Bunch cubes here and give each of you the opportunity to sort of say some final closing words. I want to thank you all so much for your time and our audience for once again having just some amazing questions and making this such a great discussion. So Susan, why don't we start with you, and we'll finish with Susan Wranik. We'll start with you and finish with Susan Emery.
Words count. Be careful about the words that you use. And on a personal note, I really think Will Smith should send a thank you note to the Willis family for removing him from the hot seat, but mostly for allowing us to shine a light on aphasia.
And Suzanne Coyle?
Yeah, I'll just say, please know that Stroke Comeback Center is here to support people with aphasia and all stroke survivors. We have a center in Rockville. We have a center in Vienna. We have a virtual program that is available to all stroke survivors throughout Maryland, DC, Virginia, and North Carolina. And most importantly, we are a nonprofit organization that means no stroke survivors ever turned away for inability to pay. So if you could spread the word about us, we'd appreciate it.
Wow, that's great. And then Marcia, Moran.
So stroke survivors should try their best to do whatever they can every single day. And to their caregivers, thank you very much, because it's not a tough job to be a caregiver.
Absolutely. That's one of our common themes on these discussions is the caregiver role is 36 hours a day. And last but certainly not least, Susan Emery.
Aphasia was the reason that I got into advocacy. I understand that there are aphasics who cannot speak. And so I have spoken before the federal legislature and the county legislature. I don't know that I've spoken to the state legislature yet, but I speak for those, I think, who can't speak.
I love it. What an amazing discussion. And I tell you, the thing that gets me so charged up about this is that we were able to put this discussion together in a timely manner while this is still relevant And the long form discussion with the audience participation is, while none of us want to turn down having Fox 5 come out and talk about an issue, we were able to cover so much ground here today. And just a reminder to everybody, this has been recorded. All of those chat comments will be included on the link that I send with the recording, so you can connect with folks that you were chatting with today. Again, thank you to all of you for participating on stage and in the audience, and we look forward to seeing you in a future discussion.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
For making it
Thank you.
happen.
Very much.
You bet.
And thanks to everybody who came on short notice.